Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I'm going to be doing a wrap up, which basically is just me reviewing and rating all the books that I read in January and February. So basically all the books I read so far this year, besides two of them because those are for March. We're just gonna be reviewing. I'm so excited because I love reading wrap-ups and watching other booktubers wrap-ups like Destiny, Sarah, Larry. There's a whole and a lot of other ones. I love watching their wrap-ups. They're just, I don't know, there's something about wrap-ups that I just love. We're gonna start off with January, of course. I read 6 books in January and I actually have 3 of these books in this month to be rereads just because I was in a very bad slump coming off of Beartown at the end of December. So going from the end of December to January and the first few days of January, I was in such a bad slump. The first book we have is The 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston, and I really enjoyed this one. And this was my first reread of the year and of the month. And I really love this one so much better on the reread than I did the first time around. We're following Clementine, and she works for this publishing company, and she's really all about her job. Her job's literally her main priority. She has to do everything for her job. She doesn't do any vacation. She just wants to focus on her job and get her job done. She basically just doesn't know what to do herself. She just feels stuck. All she does is work. Basically, Where You Left Me by Taylor Swift vibes coded. And right now she's living in her aunt's apartment, who recently passed away. And basically the apartment is set 7 years in the past. Sometimes she'd walk in and it's 7 years past, but then other times she'd walk in and it's present day. So it's kind of a back and forth of whether it's going to be 7 years past or it's going to be present day. And there in the 7 years in the past, she meets the main love interest in this book from 7 years in the past. And I don't know, it's just so cute. And I love how Ashley Poston's her later works, just how how she incorporates the magical realism into this. Because again, we have the apartment 7 years in the past, and then the dead romantic, so it's kind of like a ghost. And then in the novel love story, she went into her favorite town, her favorite fictional world. Her favorite fictional world's town. She was woke up and she's in the town. I really love this book. I feel on the second time around, I was so much more emotional, especially with the first few chapters when she's talking about grief and grieving her aunt. I just love Ashley Poston's writing. I feel her writing is just so good. I originally read this book, I rated it a 4.5, and that was a year ago. So we kind of came full circle, and now it bumped up to a 5 stars. So new 5-star read acquired. Romance was really sweet, and the guy, she was just so sweet. And it was just so good. Now we have a whole entire series that I kind of read. So 2 of them are two out of the 3 are rereads, and then the third one is a new release that came out in January. The Empyrean series by Rebecca Yarros. First one we have is Fourth Wing. This is the first book in the series, and on the first read it was a 5, and I honestly, on the second read, still a 5 stars, which I did not expect, just because there were some, the second book going into that one, I didn't really like it that much. So I was rereading this, I was okay, I'm probably gonna rate it a little lower, but I still really enjoyed it. I think I loved it a little more the second time, but it was just so good. I feel this book is giving plot and giving world building, giving romance. It gave a balance of all 3 of them, and I thought it was really good. And then I reread Iron Flame because I wasn't originally gonna reread this one. But I was okay, I might as well reread it to get ready for Onyx Storm, especially since I just reread Fourth Thing. Might as well bite the bullet and read all of them. So I reread Iron Flame. I honestly still have the same thoughts I had the first time about it, it being repetitive. I feel the pacing was just very off and all over the place, and just the characters just felt very weird to me, and I just didn't like the arguing that we had for the entirety of the book. We're literally arguing, we're supposed to be fighting this war, and we're arguing, and then we're kind of making up, and then we're arguing again. It's just so repetitive and annoying, and I still kind of felt those feelings in the second time reading this. And then we have Onyx Storm, which is the new one that came out in January. I went into this book with not high expectations. Before the reread, I was going in with low expectations, and because I was I don't care. But then I reread them and I was okay, I'm kind of excited to go into this and actually oh my gosh, we have a new book, and oh my gosh, we're gonna do new things, answers were gonna be revealed. And I feel going into this one, I had so many questions, and guess what? I came out with some of the same questions and even more questions. So it was just to go into a book and a series that you know that you're going to need more answers to like certain questions that were kind of like evoked within the first two books, going into the same questions and coming out with the same questions and then adding even more questions is honestly just baffling to me. Like, I feel like we were focusing so much on these unnecessary plot lines that we're even focused on. Like, there were these two plot lines. One of them was just Violet being delusional, and the second one was literally just like something that wasn't brought up until like the after like the 300-page marker. The first like 300 pages is being like like really nothing happened. All we did was introduce character after character after character and try to go into these like little missions and then doing more stuff with like the school and everything. And it was just, I don't know, it was just not my favorite book ever. And I feel like I was just so uninterested in the first 300 pages. I was like, am I gonna really like this? Like, I was like fully like, I am not liking this book. But then after the 300-page mark, I was like really enjoying it. There were some things too in like the first 300 pages that I did that was like liking and stuff, and I was like, oh, shocked at like certain things that were kind of getting revealed. But after the 300-page mark out, it was so fast paced. I was so interested, and I was like, oh my god, where is this gonna go? There's this new character that I'm really like intrigued about, this new like kind of thing that's kind of happening with them. And then we literally messed the entire thing up because we start to reach the ending and the pacing slows down. And then it speeds up again to like get more of the ending, and then it slows down. Like, it kept going from slow to fast in the ending. How are we in the ending in the final like what 70 pages of the book, and we're still having the slow pacing, bringing it back? Like, how are we gonna have this fast, super epic scene, and then we're gonna have a slow pace, and then we have this another super epic scene, and then we're slow, and then the ending, like the very end, the thing that's revealed. Don't even talk to me. No. So this one was a 2.5 stars. I don't know. I don't even think there's anything more I can say. It's just so, I don't know. You're probably wondering, am I going to continue this series? And the answer is yes, I will be continuing this series. I know I literally just ranted about this book, but I honestly still care about the characters, and I still care to see what happens with them, and I still care enough to read about them and not search up spoilers, because I'm not to that point yet. So also, I'm 3 books in, so I'm in too deep. I might as well finish it. And I read The House of My Mother. Now, I actually listened to this one on Audible. Now, this one was a memoir by Shari Frankie, and it was following, like, if you don't know, like, there's the whole, like, 8 passengers thing. Just go do your research. I'm not going to talk about it because this is not the place for it, but go search it up, do your research. But this was about her experience dealing with Ruby and her entire living situation. And it was just so heartbreaking to see what she was going through and the things that she experienced and the things that she went through. And not only in the household, but after leaving, and just like the things in life that the way people treated her. And then this one person ended up doing kind of the exact same thing that Ruby was doing. It was just so heartbreaking and painful to read. Like, literally, there was times where I was literally tearing up. It was just so sad to me to see her going through things like this, and like different things, that the way she was being like treated. And it was just so sad, the things that she was being forced to like believe. And I feel like everyone should read this. I feel like it's just very powerful. I don't have a rating for this one because I don't rate memoirs, because I don't think I don't really want to put a rating on someone's experiences or something someone went through. So I just personally don't rate memoirs for that reason. So the final book that I read in January was Beg, Borrow, or Steal by Sarah Adams. Now, I read this in my romance video, and I was along with like 3 other books, and so I'm not gonna really go too into the review for this one, but we're following so it was 2 second grade teachers, and basically they're rivals. They've been rivals their like entire life, and now basically they find out that they're neighbors, and she sees him at like this cafe, and then that's kind of where their banter starts to strike up. And this is the 3rd book in the Rome series, which is like When in Rome, Practice Makes Perfect, and then Beg, Borrow, and Steal. And I really am loving the series so far, and seeing like the characters from like the past books all like in this one, and then seeing the character, Emily from Emily in the other ones. I just think this is a really cute series that Sarah has going on, and I'm loving it so far. I think this is definitely my favorite Sarah Adams book, and I don't know, I just really related to Emily, and I really resonated with her, and I also related in some ways to Jack as well. I said this in my Goodreads review, but I just really enjoyed this book, and I really loved it. I ended up giving this one a 4 stars. I thought it was really cute, really fun. I feel like all of her books end up being in like the 4-star range for me, so I highly recommend if you really love cute rom-coms or you're looking for something fast-paced and short and sweet, I recommend picking this one up. Those are all the books I read in January. So now we're going to move on to the books I read in February. And I read 8 books in February. The first book I read in February was none other than The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I don't know what I expected going to this book. I don't know. I just heard people raving about it. It was the book of the month pick for this month. And honestly, I think had it not been the book of the month pick, I wouldn't have read it as fast as I did. But I don't know, I really resonated with like the synopsis, and it gave very much like toxic and very much like scandal vibes. And in this one, you're following 2 figure skaters, and basically they all like they're past, and they're basically their entire story together. There's one thing kind of happens that like splits them apart, and that's kind of like where we're kind of leading up to in this book, like trying to figure out what happened, and the storytelling of like other characters, like trying to like giving their input in like interviews and stuff. And I don't know, this book was just giving so good, and the audiobook was phenomenal, and the cast of characters that they had, I really loved it. A lot of people compare this one to Daisy Jones and the Six, and I can definitely see that, but I don't think it's like fully. I can definitely see the comparison, but I think this book deserves to just be the favorites in its own right. And not only is this book titled The Favorites, but this book is one of my favorites of the entire year. I already know this book's gonna end up on my favorites list at the end of the year. I've never been so invested in figure skating, but like reading this book, I was just so invested. And it honestly, like having the audiobook playing and me also immersive reading it with the physical copy, it literally felt like a movie in my mind. Like I was picturing everything, and I was like, oh my gosh, like this is literally like a movie. I ended up giving this one a 4.5 stars. It didn't quite hit that 5-star range for me, just because there were just a lot of things that like kind of were like a little slow in the beginning for me, and then I feel like just the ending kind of just dragged a little bit, just a little bit. And also just didn't give me that 5-star feeling like that you kind of get when you know something is a 5-star. And this book just didn't really give me that feeling. And then we have Us Against You by Frederick Bachman. Now, this one is the second book in the Beartown trilogy, and I was like, I need to pick up this book at some point. Like, I'm just craving being back in that world and feeling feelings from this world, and I've been continuing to look for the feelings that I got reading Beartown. And so I was like, I'm gonna pick this one up, and I got into it, and I honestly, right off the bat, like Frederick Bachman just hits you with like the most gut-wrenching things. And it's not even just like gut-wrenching in the thing like you would say sad, but like just some like just he like knows how to get you attached to characters, and how to like do things to bring those emotions out of you, like whether they're happy, sad, angry, upset, frustrated. Like, it's just so good. I don't know how he does it, but he just does a phenomenal job. Obviously, this book is a 5-star. I don't really go into much detail about like what it's about, but I will tell you that Beartown, basically the first one, about this town called Beartown. And you see the whole town is obsessed with hockey. Like, everything is about hockey, 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 hockey. And then something happens that kind of just like sets off this thing in motion. I'm not gonna go into like too much detail about it, but I feel like that's what you should go into. I feel like you should go into that book as blind as possible, but with those things in mind, that it's like about hockey, and it's like about this town and these cast of characters. You have multiple POVs. So going into this one, I was expecting to obviously cry and be emotional, and of course he really brought it with the emotions, because that's what he does. He loves to rip our hearts out and throw them onto the road and have a truck drive over it and have someone come over with a stick and impale it. That's literally what it feels like reading these books. Also, his writing, the way he can like bring in like connect things to other things, and like kind of just like have you like on the edge of your seat, but then be like, oh, this. And the way he talks and writes, like talking to you and talking like about different things, but he's talking to you like he's using like second person, and it's just like so good how he can use that, but then also incorporate it and make it make sense for the book and for the storyline. The next few books are the rest of the books that I read for the romance video that I did. So we have Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. Again, I'm not going to go into too much detail for these books. I'm probably just going to tell you what they're about and the rating, a little bit of my thoughts. To see my full thoughts for these books, go watch the video. I have it like linked somewhere on the screen or whatever. Somewhere on the screen or in the description or in the comment section. But somewhere I'll have it linked. But we have Deep End by Ali Hazelwood. I give this one a 2.5 stars. And I thought it was really, I don't know, I didn't really love it. I was really attached to characters, and I just thought it was like way too long. And you're following a competitive diver and a swimmer, and it's a college romance. I'm pretty sure this is her first college romance that she's ever written. And basically Scarlett suffered like this injury from this one dive that she did, and she can't do the dive anymore because like it kind of brings back like this trauma, and she's like not injured anymore, but she's like really like in her head like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, like oh my gosh, like literally like this is like trauma, like it's literally trauma, like it's PTSD trauma from that event. Then we also have like this romance, and honestly there was this one character that was just brought up at every chance that Ali Hazelwood got, she put it, like she was mentioned. Like why, like she should have been the main character at this point. Like literally this book shouldn't have been about Scarlett, it should have been about Penny. Pretty sure Penn was mentioned more than Scarlett and Lucas combined. And then we have Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonham Young. This one I thought was really wholesome and cute, and I don't know, I just really loved the storyline of this one. You're following Wynn, and basically she's at this Halloween party, and she kind of hits it off with Beau, who's our main love interest, and they have a one-night stand, and then a few months later she finds out that she's pregnant. So she finds out Beau's the father, and then Beau and her, they kind of like strike up this friendship. And I mentioned this in the reading vlog that I liked how they didn't just rush into like having a relationship just because they're having a child. They like kind of had a friendship and got to know each other first, and like go on these dates and try to like hang out more together before like being like, oh, we're in a relationship. And I really enjoyed that, and I thought it also helped to kind of like not having like miscommunication, which I can't really remember if there was a miscommunication in this book, but I don't think there was. I gave this one a 4 stars, and I really loved the guy. I thought he was really sweet, and oh, I also love the side characters, Sarah and Caleb. They just added, I felt they added just so much more to the plot and to the story. And Sarah and Wynn were just the best friends. Like they were just the bestest of friends, and it was just so fun to see their dynamic play out. And I really want to read Out of the Wood, which is Sarah and Caleb's book, and it follows their kind of like story, I guess. I don't know. I don't really know the full synopsis of that book, but I really want to read it. Then we have First Time Caller by B.K. Borison. The following Aiden, who is a radio host for a romance hotline, and you're following Lucy, who is a hopeless romantic. And one night, Lucy's daughter like calls into this romance hotline and is like, my mom literally needs a person to date. She's so lonely, whatever. Then her mom just comes bursting like, who are you on the phone with? Like, what? Why are you on the phone with this random man? And then she kind of like, and like she takes the phone. She's like, okay, who is this? And they kind of strike off this banter right off the bat, and I thought it was just really cute, like how this book started off. And then this whole encounter kind of like blows up, and Aiden's like manager or whatever, like the person that runs the whole romance hotline, is like, we need her on the show. Like we need to like make this a whole segment that we need. Like it'll give us more traction. So then Lucy agrees to do it, and so then she goes on these dates and with random people like that text her on like the number. And it was just so cute, like seeing like Aiden and Lucy's relationship kind of evolve throughout the book, like spending more time with each other as they're filming these episodes for the hotline. I did end up giving this one a 3 stars. I don't know, I thought it was really cute. Like I don't like, it's definitely not a bad book. I definitely did not dislike it, but I just thought it went on like a little bit too long. And then there was just a certain point in the middle where I just got so detached from the characters and from the whole storyline. I was just like kind of bored in a way, and I was like, I just need to finish this book to be finished, because at this point I was going on like days, and I was also sick reading this, so I was like, I'm just so tired of reading this book. But I gave it a 3 stars. I thought it was really cute and really fun, and I definitely recommend this for if you're looking for a fun Valentine's Day read. We have 2 new releases that came out in February that I read, and I actually put these in a video, but then I actually deleted all the footage for that video, so that video is never gonna see the light of day. We have Rebel Witch by Kristen Ciccarelli. I was so excited, like literally I think this is probably one of the main culprits for why I really wanted to finish First Time Caller, because I'm like, I need to read Rebel Witch. Finally finished that one and went straight into Rebel Witch, and right off the bat I was just so glad to be back with these characters, and it was just so entertaining, and I was like having the time of my life reading this one. It was so entertaining, so fast paced, so engaging. If you don't know what this book is, this is the second book in the Heartless Hunter duology, so it's the second and final book. Reading Heartless Hunter, I wasn't really obsessed with it, but I did really enjoy it, and I gave that one like a 4 stars, and this one is also a 4 stars. But I felt like this one had more plot than Heartless Hunter, because I feel like Heartless Hunter was just a lot of like romance and setting up the story, and I feel like there's just not a lot happened in that book until like there was like one thing in the middle, and then something happened at like the end of that book, which the ending of that book was crazy. But like picking this one up, I feel like after like the 50%, because like we're kind of like working with like the romance and like kind of also like focusing on these characters after that ending, like seeing them like kind of like come back from like whatever happened at that in the end. Like it was just kind of crazy how that book ended. After like halfway through, we kind of got more of that plot, and that plot came coming through, and it was just so good. I was so intrigued and in the different plot lines that we were following. Although I will say that this book was very predictable, and there was just one big plot twist I was kind of like put out, and it was just so predictable. Like I guessed it right from like I guessed it before I got to the 100-page mark, and it was just so predictable to me. But I still really enjoyed the book as a whole, and I thought it was really good. Next we have Siphon Sparrow by Bryn Weaver. I did not expect to really love this book, because I didn't really like Leather and Lark, so I was like, I was really reluctant into going into this one and like whether I'm gonna like it or not, but I ended up really enjoying it. So we're following Fiona, he's a doctor, and we're also following Rose, who basically is like a circus performer, and she performs in the circus. And something happens to Rose, and she ends up with a broken leg, and she has to rushes to like, I guess this random house, which ends up being Fiona's house. Fiona rushes to the hospital, and she's kind of in the hospital, and then that's kind of where we start up with like the romance and everything. And I don't know, I really enjoyed the plot of this book as well. Like there was this plot that we're kind of following that involved Rose. Like it mainly involved Rose, and then Fiona was just there for the ride. And I don't know, I just was really loving this one a lot more than Butcher and Blackbird. I don't think it's my favorite plot, but these are definitely my favorite characters. Like I love these characters more than I love the characters in Butcher and Blackbird. But I think the serial killer game just takes the cake for me at like the plot. This one is like a close second plot wise. I don't know, it was just really good to me, but I will say there's parts in the middle that kind of dragged for me that I was just kind of like uninterested in. But I gave this one a 4 stars. Part of the reason was, again, the middle was a little slow, and it took me a bit to get into the book. Like I was just like kind of confused, like the timeline from like the first and second book and this place. And then I found out that this book actually takes place during like the events of like the first and second book, and I'm so glad, because it wasn't repetitive of the book of like the events that happened in the first 2 books, and it kind of just took on its own kind of take on it through these people's PV, and it didn't really dwell on the fact that we're really overlapping the 2 books, which I loved. And I love that they got their own story and their own rights, and we weren't being like bombarded by the other characters that we already got books from. So I really enjoyed this one. And the ending, seeing like the ending through this person's POV, and the ending never failed to make me cry. Like I was like, oh, this is why I wish I had the footage came. I was like literally like tearing up reading like some of the part of the ending. We have one more book to talk about, and that is Anxious People by Frederick Bachman. I already talked about this with Us Against You, but Frederick Bachman just knows how to write characters and knows how to get you to be attached with them, and he just knows what to write and what to do to get you to fall in love with them and grow an attachment towards them. Basically this one you're following, I think it's like 6 people in this bank. There's like a whole bank robbery that turns into this hostage situation at an apartment viewing, and there's like these 6 people there that you kind of get all their POVs in, but you don't learn a lot about them. Like you're kind of just learning all about them like throughout the entirety of the book. And then there's also these police officers that we're following as well. I just really enjoyed this book. I thought it was very like it was just so emotional, like some things that were kind of being revealed and some things that were being discussed, and just like going through the different characters in their lives and like learning about them, it was just so sweet and endearing, like seeing it. And there was just some parts like of some specific things in her life that just made me emotional and just made me want to like sob my eyes out. And I feel like that's what Frederick Bachman does. He wants you to sob your eyes out. I gave this one a 4.5 stars. I really expected it to be a 5-star when I picked it up. I just didn't get that 5-star feeling that I get with my 5 stars. But I think this is after Beartown and that trilogy. This is my second favorite Frederick Bachman book. And then my least favorite, but it's still a really good book, A Man Called Ove. And I also love how it incorporates like humor along with like having it being really overly emotional. And not overly emotional, really like having those emotional moments, but also including humor in it. It's like there was like a lot of moments where I was just laughing out loud because at some of the jokes that were kind of being discussed. But those are all the books that I read in January and February. Stick around this month. I have some fun reading vlogs planned and some other videos that I want to film. But let me know what you guys want to see on this channel, and stay tuned for next month to see my March wrap up and all the books I read in March. But I do hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, turn on the notifications so you're notified whenever I post a new video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!